To the Airbus A320. I started my career on this very plane and we are here in a cold and dark configuration. This is how you're gonna find it when you get to the flight deck. Everything will be dark, everything will be off. And the first thing you need to do is put the batteries on to get some electricity in the flight deck. And to do it, you go on the overhead panel and you can check here that most of the things are not showing anything except for the external power that shows available. So we have to put the batteries to on. Before we do that, we have to make sure that some of the switches are in their correct position. And one of those are, for example, the landing gear is down, the engine mode selector is normal, the weather radar is off, and the wipers are in the off position. Once you check that, the batteries are above 25.5 volts, then you put the batteries to on. Battery 1 and battery 2 to on. Now you can see that there are some lights coming into the flight deck. As you can see here, some panels have some light, but this is not enough to power the whole airplane, and the batteries will drain eventually if they don't have a different source to charge. We have two options. Either we put the external power, we connect it to get electricity in the flight deck, or we turn on the APU, which you can see here, and it's a small engine at the back of the airplane that provides electricity and air conditioning. But most of the airlines, we leave it until the end to save some fuel and hence save some money. So the first thing we will turn on is the external power. It says available, that means it's connected. We will go on the outside and you can see that the small generator here that you can see, it's connected to the airplane. That's what we're going to use. The APU is what you find here at the back of the airplane, and now it's in the off position. So here we are parked in Dubai International Airport. As you can see, there are a lot of Emirates airplanes parked next to us. Usually 320s are not parked here, but we're privileged to be parked next to the Airbus A380. Going back to the flight deck, as we said, we will put the external power to on, and now it makes more sense. More light is coming into the flight deck. If you can see here, all the screens will be turned on. They'll be doing some self-tests. While the self-test is happening, we go back to the overhead panel and we turn on, or we align the ADIRs. The ADIRs will be off now, so we will be a complete alignment, and we put the ADIRs 1 to nav, and the second one to nav, and the third one to nav. While that is happening, now it's time to turn on some lights if we need to. It's daylight, so we have tons of natural light, so we don't need any lighting. So we move on to the EFBs, electronic flight bags. Mine is already on, as I have already put the flight plan of today's flight from Dubai to Istanbul International Airport. With that being there, we will check the technical status of the airplane. Check that if the airplane has any MEL noted or any technical defects noted by the previous crew, and if we need to apply any MEL for this flight. We're gonna consider that this airplane is clear from any failures or faults and there is no defects on the airplane. That is done. We check that we have any OEBs, operational engineering bulletins. This airplane, we're gonna consider it doesn't have any. Once that's done, we need to do an APU fire test. We go on the overhead panel. The test button is here. To do it, we have to make sure the fire push button switch is guarded. And once we press it, you can see that the fire push button light is on. The squib and discharge lights are on. You can hear the master warning. And if we go back here, you can see the master warning light is flashing. And we go here to the ECAM, you can see the APU fire ECAM message is there. That confirms a successful APU fire test. Then we'll release the button of the test. We carry on with our preliminary cockpit preparation to a takeoff performance. To do a takeoff performance, we need a preliminary load sheet to confirm how many passengers we have on board, what are the things that we have loaded on the airplane. If we go here on the flight plan of today's flight, if we scroll down, we gotta consider that this is our preliminary load sheet. We have 174 passengers, 4.3 tons of cargo, payload 18.2, 0 fuel weight 61.9. We'll be carrying 15.4 tons. Takeoff weight will be 77.1. Landing weight is just 100 grams below our maximum landing weight. As you can see, it's a very busy flight, full fuel, so we will have to deal with them. If we find any problem loading this airplane, we will mitigate it together and I will show you what we use to solve these problems. But for now, everything looks good and legal, so we can proceed with that, but being cautious. That, for example, the person that refuels the airplane doesn't overfuel the airplane, then you can find yourself with another problem where you need to defuel the airplane or offload cargo, etc. So be cautious when you have these figures that are close to their maximum. We go on the performance application. We are in Dubai, runway 30 right. The runway is dry, and we can confirm it with our ATIS or METAR. We're going to consider that we got the ATIS, and it shows Dubai. This is the time and the date. Runway 30 right we set, and it can confirm it with the wind 330, 13 knots, Cabo OK, 33 degrees, QNH 1007, no SIG. So we will do exactly that. Dry. Flap config optimum, force toga on no. We're going to leave it to no so that we can benefit from a reduced takeoff thrust. Engine anti-ice, we don't need it, and the packs will put them on for passenger comfort. We will see if we are limited, then we will have to put them to off. We said we're gonna calculate with 77.2, which is the maximum. So 29 here, 1007, 33033. Okay, everything looks good. Before we do that, runway info is 30 right, 4,300 meters. This is the data you have from the performance application, so it's a good time to check them against the chart that you are using, Lido or Jeppesen, to confirm that you're using the right runway. So press calculate. Here we have the results. We're using V1, VR, V2, flaps 2, and this is a flex temperature of 47 degrees, which looks good. And our performance limit in takeoff weight is 81 tons. That means we're not very limited. We are limited by maximum takeoff weight, but not by performance, so we can leave the packs 2 on. Okay, perfect. Looks good. Our preliminary cockpit preparation is almost coming to an end because the pilot monitoring will have to go do the walk around, but before he goes, he has to do a few checks. One of the checks is oxygen of the cockpit. The hydraulic levels are normal. Engine oil quantities are normal. We have 18 quarts. He will then check that the speed brakes are retracted, flaps are at 0, and it shows it here. We have them at 0, and the parking brake is set, and we can double check it here with the triple indicator. That's perfect. He's going for the walk around. Meanwhile, while he's doing the walk around, we will do our cockpit preparation. The cockpit preparation will start with an overhead panel scan. The overhead panel scan is very simple. Airbus made a simple philosophy to make sure that all the lights that you can see here, they must be off, except for the yellow ones that you can see here, which show fault. That's normal because the engines are not running. Once we run the engines, all the lights will be turned off. So the scan will start as such from the left side, from down to up, middle down to up, and the right down to up. As we said, all the lights must be switched off. So this one would go to auto, the crew supply oxygen. The recorder, voice recorder, we will put it to on, and we do a test. We press the CVR test until we hear the beep. We carry on here. The evac panel. The switch can be in either captain or captain and purser. Depending on the airline policy, some airlines prefer only the captain can initiate an evacuation. Some others prefer that both can initiate an evacuation from their respective station. We carry on here. The seat belts or the external lights, navigation lights, must be on if it's at night, but now we're just gonna leave it to on to make sure that the guy who's doing the work around making sure that the navigation lights are serviceable. So they're on, and the seat belts here on the signs panel, we have to turn them on if the refueling has finished. We can see that we have 15.4. We asked for 15.4, so that means that the refueling has finished. We can put them then to on. The smoking signs, no smoking signs, will go to auto. The emergency exit lights will go to arm. Here we don't need to do anything, all the lights are off. The pack flow here can be either in low, normal, or high, depending on how many passengers. Today we're gonna leave it in normal position. We go to the electrical panel. We have to check that the batteries, when we put them off and on, the amperes will drop from 60 amperes in less than 10 seconds. So we do that, we put them off and we put them on. And if we go back here, I will put the elect panel, and it's been less than 10 seconds and they have dropped below 60 amperes. All right, we carry on with our overhead panel scan. Fuel pumps, we put them to on. And here we don't need to do anything in the hydraulic panel. Engine fire test. We'll do exactly what we did for the APU, now it's for the engine. We press it, we make sure that we get the lights, as you can see there. You hear the master warning, you come back here. The mastering warning light, you can see it's blinking, and you come back here on the ECAM, you can see that there's engine 1 fire ECAM warning, and you have the engine fire on there, which is switched and lighted. That means and confirms that the engine fire test is successful. We release it, and we do the same thing for engine number 2, checking all the things we check for engine number 1. We're just gonna skip it for the sake of the video. Carry on the right side here, we do a scan again, and we come here to the cargo heating. It's a good time now to put the temperature of the cargo holds when you have the no talk. You can have a preliminary no talk or the final no talk. You can set it with the notice to captain. It will inform you if there is anything special in the cargo holds, any dangerous goods as well. For example, if anything that needs temperature control, it will be indicated there, and it's a good time to set it here. For example, if you have a live animal, dog or a cat, then they would require a certain temperature, so you put the switch to the right temperature to provide the correct temperature in the cargo holds. With that being done, we carry on here, we check everything, and once we finish with the overhead panel, then we come back here, we check the left side, the ACP, the RMP, everything is good. The switching panel, the middle side, everything is simple in Airbus. Left, middle, and right, like the overhead panel. We come back here, thrust levers here at idle, everything looks normal. Cockpit door, we didn't check it, should be here, it's checked. And we go on the right side again, and same thing. With that being done, now we do the FMS. So we go to the FMS, so we press here and we check the database validity. For example, on this video, we don't need to check the database validity as it's not important for this video, but you have to make sure that it's current and it's valid. So we clear these messages, we read them and we clear them, nav accuracy upgraded, GPS primary, and we clear it. I like to use the acronym IFRS IPP. It helps me structure my flow when I prepare the FMS. So it starts with an I. We put here the information that we have from the flight plan as we saw here. The aircraft is loaded, we dismiss it, and we come back to the flight plan here, and we would have to insert this route, which is here. Start from runway 30 up, read up to Foxtrot flight plan route to Istanbul 35 right via this star. So we go back to the FMS here, and we enter the data from Dubai to Istanbul, ground temperature 33, and flight number Yankee Tango Papa 001, cost index 9, flight level 340. We move to F, Dubai, runway 30 right we said, read up to Foxtrot, insert, and we scroll down until we find read up, and we start inserting the airways, and it starts with Mike 557, Lima 602 to TASMI, and you have to make sure that the true waypoints are correct as well to avoid any input errors. TASMI. Now, since we have a direct route, we have to insert and go and insert the next direct waypoint from the last one. So we scroll down until you find the last one, TASMI, and from there we have SEP2, insert it. From SEP2 we have ROXUP, and we insert it. Now we have an airway, we go from ROXUP, airways, uniform Mike 860, uniform Tango 368, uniform Lima 718, uniform Tango 888, uniform Lima 615, and to Ersen. We insert it, we come here, arrival, 35 right, ILS, Zulu here, and our star is Ersen to November. Ersen to November, we insert it, everything is set. We move to RadNav page. If we need to insert anything that can be useful for our departure, our SID, then we put it here. We go to our secondary flight plan, we copy the active, and we insert a flight plan in case of an immediate return, in case of fire or smoke. Then it's a good time to have a flight plan here in case we need to make an immediate return. On runway ILS 30 left, and we set the performance on the approach page. It was 1007, 33, 330, 13. We don't have a V approach because we haven't set up init B, and we put the minimum here. The minimum is not really important because you're coming back for a controlled fire, so it doesn't really matter if you put a minimum or not, but you can put them as a reference, and also the go around here, the acceleration altitude. with that being said, we move to the second eye and we set the figures that we have from the mass and balance application. So 62.3, 31.3, 15.4, 2.2. Okay. So it says the takeoff weight is 77.5 and our landing weight is above the maximum landing weight. So to solve the problem of takeoff, we said we're gonna use 400. So we're still above it, so we use 500. So we make sure that we're not taking off above it. So we're gonna land above the maximum landing weight. So there are a few options where you can solve this problem. We can increase the cost index, we can cruise at a lower flight level. So the first thing we're gonna try is, let's see if we can cruise at a lower level, 320. If then time is more important than increase the cost index, put in flight level 320, it shows that already that we're landing below 65.8. Problem is solved. So we carry on with FMS preparation. The next page that we need to insert is the proc page, flight level 320. You can see here, optimum 310, rec max 346. So it's good that we took a lower level. We leave our margin between the rec max 346, which basically indicates the maximum flight level at which we can reach and still have some performance. We can set here the runway threshold of runway 30 left as a reference, and we come here to the performance page and we can set it from the figures that we have calculated earlier from the performance application, which are here. There's a call function, we can just send them and you can come here and you can see them, they're already here. NADP, we're not gonna select it, we're gonna leave it as here, default, 1500, 1500. Manage speed here, and cruise flight level, we don't need to change anything, and that's it. The FMS is finished. 3.5 is showing on the arrival, and let's double check to see how much fuel we need when we reach our destination. We need 2.2 and 1.2, that's 3.4. So we need 3.4 tons, and it's showing here 3.5. So we're good. 3.5, and landing weight is below the maximum landing weight, and the takeoff weight is below the maximum takeoff weight. All right, FMS is done. We come back here. We will do the glare shield. We will come here and we will check that our QNH is 10007 is set on both sides. And we have constraint here and FD constraint, and our flight level is showing, or initial climb is 4000 constraint, and he has FD on. Everything looks good here. Then we do an oxygen test on this side, but before we do it, we have to make sure that the intercom switch is on intercom, and then we come back here. You have to press here. The yellow blinker has to turn on and off. Obviously it didn't happen here, and you release it and then you press here again. While pressing this one and this one, the yellow blinker has to stay on while hearing the oxygen flow on the speakers. We're gonna consider it successful. We close this one and we come back to our flight deck. We check that everything is set to normal. We have climb nav 4000, our heading, our compass is showing 210 as well. Perfect, same thing. And now it's a good time to brief, but to brief we need a clearance. We're gonna assume we have clearance, and we're not gonna brief as well because it's beyond the scope of this video. We'll make another video to explain how to brief for a departure. Now, aircraft is loaded, we have all the passengers. All we need is a load sheet, make a PA, and here we go. We're gonna consider that the load sheet is received. We can see it here on the company message, that we have a company message. Let's go here and check the TSU and received messages. Load sheet 1014. Perfect. So we're gonna accept it. Load sheet is accepted. And now we can do a before start checklist. The before start checklist is right here. And cockpit preparation. You have to make sure that everything now at this stage is finished. So as you can see here, obviously it's not completed. The APU is still off. We turn on the APU so that we can remove the external power. You can see the checklist is a good reminder. Even experienced pilots, they tend to forget things. So the checklist is one of the barriers to mitigate those things. So APU master switch is on, and we put the start button to on, and now we wait for the APU to start. Alright, APU is started, we put the bleed on, and we disconnect the external power. And now we can carry on with the checklist. Cockpit preparation also includes other things like the initial climb altitude, everything. It's a good time to pause, have a wide look at everything, and then carry on. Bar ref, we go back here, 1007, 1007, and you can see here it's not set to 1007, and now it's set. Checklist is really important. ACAR is initialized, parking brake is set, and parking brake is set, and I can see on the triple indicator that it is set. Fuel on board, 15.4, and we can come back here. Init B, we go back here, and we can see that it is loaded as per the flight plan and the load sheet. Flex temperature, we check it, and the speeds are here. And the speeds, I can see it here, so we go back once and for all. Flex temperature and takeoff speeds are set. Perfect. Now we ask for the pushback clearance, but before we do, we have to make sure that the guys downstairs with the truck and everything, they are ready for pushback. So to make sure that they are ready for pushback, we need to clear the area with the external power. So we're gonna ask them to disconnect the external power, and to do that, we go back here. So there's no way we can speak to them like in real life. So we go to ground services, we disconnect the external power. The doors are closed, as you can see here. So we will disconnect the jetway. And the jetway is going away in a second. We can soon start our pushback. Chokes and cones removed. All right, perfect. Now we ask for the clearance. We can assume that we got the clearance. Once we get the clearance, so you put the beacon to on, you make sure that the windows are closed on both sides. Then, thrust lever is at idle, parking brake is set. The pilot monitoring will put the transponder to auto. We come back here, and we can do a checklist. So below the line, passenger signs, we go to the overhead panel, we have on and auto. We come back here, beacon, we just put it on, transponder auto, and all doors are closed. So normally before the pushback, before you put the beacon on, as per the procedure, the slides, if you follow the right sequence, the slides have to be armed. But once we start the pushback here, the cabin crew will arm the slides, and I will show you. So you have to make sure also the nose wheel steering disconnect message is appearing here. If it doesn't, then you don't start the engine during the pushback. So let's start the pushback as we have the clearance, and we see if everything is normal. All right, so we go back to our panel, and we ask for a pushback. Connect the tug and start a pushback. Let's see from the outside. Here you go. So the tug is being connected, and here we go. Waiting only on the slides. Let's see if they turn on by themselves. If not, then it's a problem with the sim. No, they're coming on. All the slides are armed, and that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. We can see from the outside, we're pushing back on the right line, and that's it for this video, I guess. We're not gonna start the engines. It goes beyond the scope of this demonstration. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and it's very informative because I am refreshing my memory as well of the 320. I haven't flown this airplane in real life in close to 5 years. So if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And I hope to see you on the next one with the same aircraft on the same flight simulator. Take care, guys.